are at the Oklahoman's Video Studio for Parties Extra. I'm Helen Ford Wallace. Our sponsor is Party Galaxy. With us today are Jim Priest and Erin Engelke, and they are with Sunbeam Home. Welcome, you all.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us, Helen.
Well, you've written a book, Jim.
Yeah, well, I've contributed to a book. Let me put it that way.
Tell us about it.
Bob Burke, who's a good friend and a wonderful author, he's written more nonfiction history, I think, than anyone in the history of the United States.
He's just a historian.
He's a wonderful historian, and you can tell he loves history. And he just fell in love with the story of Sunbeam. He became a big believer in Sunbeam as a result of this work. So probably many months ago, I sat down with Bob at the Class and Grill where he holds court, and I broached this idea. I said, would you be willing to work on a book with me about Sunbeam Family Services, an organization that's been around for 109 years. But I said, what I'm finding when I travel through the community is people have heard of us, probably, but they don't know very much about us, and we need to tell our story. And so that's all I needed to get Bob engaged. And he said, oh, I love telling stories and I love history. And so we took off on the project, and he did the lion's share of the writing. I contributed to it, as did my predecessor, Ray Beachy. Ray interviewed a lot of our former board members, and together, through the collaborative effort, we were able to put the book together.
And you had a lot of photos, a lot of archives, minutes is what you all said of meetings. You had lots to work with.
Yeah. What was amazing to me when I came on board is that for an organization that's over a century old, we had archives that went back virtually to the first day.
Oh, wow.
And so handwritten constitution, handwritten minutes of the first meetings of the corporation in 1910. And so it was a treasure trove of history to dive into and to draw out of it. And then Bob supplemented that with his own research through the Oklahoman archives. And there were wonderful, wonderful stories there that we did not know, but for the fact that Bob went back and found them in the newspaper.
I was reading the Junior League history, and you all were one of their first, very, very first projects. They were drivers for you. I don't know where they were driving people, but they said they were drivers. So,
Yeah.
And that was early day.
Right.
And you're still partnering now, I think.
We are, yeah. The Junior League of Oklahoma City has been a huge partner of ours, and they still are. Even to this day, they do an amazing project with us at Educare, which is one of our early childhood centers on the south side. And they do family fitness nights with the little kids that, attend Educare. And it's wonderful to still have that level of engagement with.
That is years. That's 110 years, probably.
I know. And they're just one of so many amazing groups across this community that have gotten Sunbeam to where we are today.
They've stayed with you,
Yes.
and you all are worth staying with. You all, Sunbeam is wonderful. I mean, you all do wonderful things.
Yeah.
But you've had a launch party for your book, so tell us about the party.
We did. We hosted a wonderful party at the History Center a couple of weeks ago, really to kick off the amazing book. We had great guests there, many of which were former board members, some of which have supported our organization for decades. But one of the highlights of that evening was getting to hear the story of a woman who is now older but used to live in the original Sunbeam home. She was a foster child and to some degree had been orphaned, and she lived in the original home, and she just told the most heartwarming story about how Sunbeam was family to her, and that even to this day, Sunbeam still serves as her family. She's continued to receive services from us through our counseling program, and right beforehand she said, Erin, I think I'm going to cry when I talk about my experience with Sunbeam. And I said, that's okay. I can't imagine not crying given the circumstances that she'd been under. But she ended up being adopted by a really loving family who ended up fostering 35 additional children through Sunbeam over the years.
Is that right? So it started as an orphanage.
It did.
Well, yes, but they never used the word orphanage. And in fact, if you talk to people who lived there, they are almost offended if you use that word. I've done that by accident, and somebody will say, don't ever call that an orphanage. It was a home. And that's in fact what it was called, the Sunbeam home.
It was called the Sunbeam.
And people came there, and sometimes orphans came, sometimes children that had parents, but the parents just couldn't take care of them because of economic duress. they would come and stay with us for a period of time. And what we found through the research was that I was always curious, where did the name Sunbeam come from? And we were able to determine the children themselves were called Sunbeams.
Oh, little Sunbeam.
And we think it was based on an old Sunday school hymn called Jesus Wants Me for a Sunbeam.
Oh.
That song was written about the same time as we got started by a lady in Missouri. And the women who started Sunbeam in 1907 through 1910 were all women of faith. They were concerned that they were doing the Lord's work by attending to the children. And so there's an old photo, and on the back all the names of the kids are written there. And there's a name, Spencer Russell, and next to it it says, "Our first little sunbeam."
Oh.
And so that's where the name Sunbeam came from. It was the children, and it was a home, not an orphanage.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you all have carried on that mission of those people. I do feel like that. I
Right.
think that
Well,
you
we've
all are-
evolved over the years to, we try to go where other people are not serving the needs of the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so this, of course, we got started, there was no Department of Human Services, there was no Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse. We did that kind of work. We had the first counseling clinic in Oklahoma City. Later, the Department of Mental Health was able to get funded and began taking on responsibility. So we still do counseling, but in a different arena. And with the kids too. You know, the DHS is very involved with foster children, but we continue as a direct contractor helping place foster children in loving, caring homes.
Isn't that wonderful? That's really wonderful. Well, so you have a few stories for us, Erin, about some of the people that live there, I guess.
Yeah.
You've told one.
Yes, I already talked about Karen, and the book is just filled with stories of children.
Volunteers and-
volunteers, but also the children who really were impacted so dramatically, especially early on. But even to this day, I mean, we of course have clients and families that have been served through our programs that will just tell you straight out, Sunbeam is family to us. One of which is a young girl named Kirsten Gonzalez. She has 2 young boys. She got pregnant very early when she was 14. She had to drop out of high school, and it wasn't until she came upon our program through Emerson Alternative High School, which provides childcare free, and diapers and formula and those kinds of additional services, that she was able to enroll back in high school and complete her high school program. She is now a sophomore in college and is on a full steam ahead track to really be a successful young woman. And she completely credits Sunbeam for helping her get her feet back under her.
Is she in the book?
She is in the book, yes.
Yeah, in fact, she and her 2 boys are pictured
Yeah.
toward the end of the book with me, because I've gotten to know Kirsten through her journey with Sunbeam, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful story, and representative of the title of the book, Changed Lives. Bob and I thought about what should we call this, you know, the history of Sunbeam. That's what it's about, but Bob said what it's really about is how many lives have been changed, and so that became the name of the title.
That is a great name
Yeah.
and a great idea. I mean, that's a good seller. So where are these books available?
So our book is available, of course, at Sunbeam, so folks can come to our offices at 14th and Classen and purchase one. But there's also books available at Best of Books, which is in North Edmond, off Danforth and Bryant, and then also at Full Circle Bookstore.
And I think everyone in Oklahoma City would be blessed to have a book like this book.
Oh, it's great. When we start out with an introduction from the mayor and from Kim Henry, both of whom have been very supportive and encouraging, and they both talk about how Sunbeam's story parallels the city of Oklahoma City's story so significantly, and both are thriving today, both are growing and expanding, but both had times during their history where it could have gone either way. One funny story from the book, probably 3 or 4 years after the Home Association was incorporated, there was a motion and a second to dissolve the corporation. Money wasn't coming in, things looked kind of bleak, and so they voted to dissolve the organization. They appointed a committee to carry it out. But the committee couldn't quite pull the trigger. They just felt reluctant to do that. And they actually approached the Oklahoman. They talked to the legislature. Could you help us raise funds? And Mr. Gaylord wrote an editorial and said, we cannot abandon these children. That is not the Oklahoma City way. We must come to the aid of these orphans.
He said that?
Yes.
That's awesome.
They wrote a big editorial, and that, plus some help from the legislature, breathed new life into the organization, and we survived. And so the story, like Oklahoma City, is a story of struggle and advancement and accomplishment with threats to our very existence, as the city of Oklahoma City did, and yet we persevered through it.
So it has evolved. So
Yeah.
the change, what is the change? How has the change evolved? What do you do now?
Well, we do 4 core programs. We started out neglected, abandoned children, and we've expanded, although we still do have a number of services for those kinds of children. We start early on the age spectrum with early childhood services. And we really believe you start with kids 0 to 5 and pour time and effort and energy into them. You set an upward trajectory for their lives. Brain development, 80% of our brains are developed by the age of 5, and so we've got to get in early with these kids, especially children of impoverished families. And so at EduCare, our flagship early childhood center down on Southeast Grand Boulevard, we do that in a very direct way with 212 kids. And then we partner with 13 child care sites across the metro area in the most impoverished zip codes to try to help them, partner with them to raise the standards of performance for the kids and also to help the teachers. So that's a large part of what we do, early childhood. And then moving across the age spectrum, we do sliding scale counseling of all kinds for all people of all ages. So if you can afford it, you can pay our regular hourly rate. If you can't, then you can pay a reduced rate. We take Medicaid, we take private pay insurance clients, and we provide individual therapy, marital therapy, parent-child interactive therapy.
You all are busy.
Right, though our people are working all the time. We do foster care, recruitment and placement, just like we did back in 1909. And then we do an array of senior services, including the state's only homeless shelter for senior citizens.
Wow.
And it's right on our campus at 14th and Classen, where we can house up to 11 people, usually for about 30 days, to help them transition to permanent housing. And when I first came on board, I thought, is there really a need for a senior homeless shelter? Surely there are other homeless shelters. But the needs of seniors are particularly unique. And they have prescription medicine most often. They are often physically frail, and they need somebody that kind of caters to their unique needs at that stage of life. And that's what we do in the senior shelter, along with other things like helping grandparents who are raising grandchildren, providing
A lot of those.
help. Yeah, we lead the nation. We're either number 1 or number 2 in the nation in per capita grandparents raising grandkids. So we're there to support across the age spectrum people who are vulnerable citizens and who, but for our assistance, could tip either way.
And this book proceeds go right back to you. Is that
Right.
right?
Yep.
So that is helping these programs.
Yeah, exactly.
That is just fabulous. Well, Jim, you're really an author yourself, besides your book writing. You write for the Oklahoman.
Right?
You've written for the Oklahoman for many, many years. And there was a period of time. What was the period of time you wrote?
I started writing a column called Family Talk back in 1996, and I did that for 10 years. I didn't get paid, but they told me that's what it was worth. So,
It's a good column.
but it was a lot of fun, and it was. I used to tell people it's one of the few places I can express my opinion and nobody takes a swing at me. And then, because of limitations of available space, I stepped out of that role for a while. There just wasn't room for my column. And then recently, probably within the last year, I've been able to pick that up again. It's in the Life section on Monday mornings, next to your column.
Along with 204060.
Yeah.
Right there together.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's been a lot of fun. Just my goal has always been to speak truth into the marketplace of ideas about the importance of family and making sure that's a priority. And I believe that all truth is God's truth, and so we speak truth as best we can discern it, And hopefully some people will find it helpful at a stage of their life where maybe they're wondering, should I just, get a divorce, or maybe I just need to write this kid off because he's hopeless. And I want to breathe hope and encouragement into the hearts of the readers.
And at Sunbeam, you're doing that too. You also write online, is that right?
Right.
For News
right.
OK.
News OK. Yep.
So anybody can look there for you.
Yep.
Now, are you writing, Erin?
No. Jim keeps me entirely too busy to have time to write extracurricularly.
Yeah, the big joke around Sunbeam is I come into Erin's office several times a day. I go, I've got an idea.
I say, no more ideas.
Okay, well, any other thoughts on the book that you all want to share?
Well, obviously, we want to encourage people to get a copy of it and make sure that they become familiar with the history, both of the city and of Sunbeam, because it's such a great organization that helps people not only on the receiving end, but it helps people who are on the giving end, our volunteers and our donors. There is an innate need in nearly all of us to make a contribution, to make a difference in people's lives. And this is a great avenue where people can do that. So whether it's writing a check, coming to our annual event in April called Shine a Light, which is a great dinner. We get to tell the story of one of our programs, one of our 4 core programs there. There's numerous places for your viewers to plug into Sunbeam and to be a giver back into the community. So buy the book, get plugged in, check our website, www.sunbeamfamilyservices.org. And we want as many people in the community to be engaged with us as we can.
You didn't talk about Living Christmas?
Oh.
Very giving
Very
Christmas?
giving Christmas,
Yeah.
yeah. Erin can talk about
Okay.
that.
Yeah, so this is a program that we do in partnership with Catholic Charities, and it's really an opportunity for us to give back to families that need help during the holidays, but also engage the community. So we ask the community to contribute donated items, gift items, kids' toys, all the way up to shop vaccine tools or blankets to fill St. Nick's shop. We then identify families through Catholic Charities and Sunbeam who need assistance during the holidays. They are required to donate an hour of volunteer time into the community in order to receive what we call Santa Bucks. So they receive a certain number of Santa Bucks per person in their family, and then they get to come into the shop, St. Nick's shop, and pick out items for themselves and for their children and really have a say in what goes under their family's Christmas tree. But it takes huge amounts of volunteers. We had over 400 volunteers participate with us last year. They get to be an elf and help these families shop or wrap gifts or just provide hospitality. And it's an extremely fun event. It happens in the middle of December 15th through the 19th. So they can check it out. Viewers can look at it at averygivingchristmas.org.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you've done some kind of conference lately? Was that you all putting that conference on?
Yeah.
It's coming up in November, and we do this in partnership with the Oklahoma Institute for Child Advocacy. It's called the Kids Count Conference. And in fact, in connection with that, we have promoted Oklahoma's first kid governor, and he has a number of videos where he, as a child, is talking about issues that are important to kids. And we really need to make sure that our legislators, our state leaders, both private sector companies as well as public sector officials, understand the importance of investing in children. And so that's what this conference is designed to do, is to talk about kids' issues. That's what the Kid Governor is designed to do as well.
And how nice that you're listening to them.
Right, right.
So and the conference is 2 days, or?
It's November 2nd and 3rd at UCO, and there's information on our website as well as the OICA website, oica.org. Joe Dorman is the new CEO of OICA, and we're really looking forward to a partnership there. Joe's going to do a great job.
Will you all be speaking at the conference?
I will be, and I think Joe will be, and we've got a number of our folks contributing. And that points out, you and I were talking before we went on air about the vision for Sunbeam ahead. And one of the things that I want us to be about, and we all want Sunbeam to be engaged in, is collaboration, both with the nonprofit agencies as well as for-profit companies, and government. It's going to take all hands pulling on the oars to move our boat forward. And so that's why we collaborate with Catholic Charities on Very Giving Christmas. That's why we collaborate with OICA on our Kids Count conference. And we're constantly looking for partners, private agencies, public agencies, to work with us on that.
That's awesome. Well, my friend, the late Sandy Trojan, was honored by you all. She was one of your volunteers.
Right.
And
a board member.
And a board member, and a lovely, lovely person. And I know she's missed by me, and I'm sure by you all.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you all have a nice core of volunteers out there, I think.
We always need more.
Well, how can you be a volunteer? Do you go to your website?
Yes, absolutely. We have lots of volunteer opportunities on our website, but then we just encourage you to call. Give me a call, and we can talk about ways to plug folks in.
I mean, you have your cell phone listed
I know.
out public.
Right, how dare I? What am I thinking?
I was very impressed. I went, oh, well, I'll just call her cell. So, anything else? No?
I think that we could talk for hours about Sunbeam.
Well, you could talk for hours about what's in your book, I think.
Absolutely. Well, and we do have a couple book signings coming up.
Oh, good.
So Best of Books and at Full Circle Bookstore with Bob and Jim. They'll be signing the book, so that's priceless enough. The book is $20 and will be fun.
Pictures? We got pictures in the book?
Tons
there's
and tons
150
of
pictures.
So you might see you might see yourself.
That's right.
You could
Very
be
well
in there.
could.
I do, if I could just say this one last thing as a thank you to Bob Burke. This book would not have been possible without his labor. He did not charge us a dime for all the work that he did. In fact, he contributed affirmatively to the cost of the publication. He has been such a prince and a delight to work with. I'm just energized every time I'm around him. And such a gift to our community to have somebody like this that's willing to invest time and energy and get up at 4:30 in the morning to work on his writing before he goes to his law practice. So thank you, Bob, for your excellent work.
And thank you all for coming in. Thanks so much. You all have a powerful story to tell, and you've told it in your book. I loved your quote in the book, and I really thought it was great. You said, Oklahomans are resilient, can-do people, and we at Sunbeam stand ready to work with all partners to improve the lives of vulnerable Oklahomans. That's what we do, and we have done it for 100 years, providing help, hope, and opportunity, and above all, changing lives for the better. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.